All right, it's 5:01. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Sure. We have Cynthia Kennedy.
Present.
Is present. Mary Mannering not present. Joe Pichette present.
Present.
Nick Adams is present. Chris Harp is present, and Aaron Summers is present. So we have five present, Mr. Chair.
Perfect. Okay. So moving on, need a motion to approve the minutes of November 1st, Middleton Westport JZC meeting.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Would anybody like to second?
Summers will second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, so moving on, agenda items, we have a final action on the extraterritorial zoning ordinances proposed at chapter 35 of the Middleton Municipal Code. Mark, would you like to take it from here?
Sure. And actually, what I want to do is I want to pull up the working draft. I should have had that one ready to go. That way, if there's any further changes, we can just make them right away. Thank you. I'm under zoning. Oh, was I not sharing my screen at all?
Not yet.
Oh, I apologize. I've had that. I thought I was.
There's Mary.
Okay, let me share my screen. I had the agenda up and everything earlier. But did not realize I was sharing. Here. All right, I'll note Mary is being present now. All right, so I worked on this since the last meeting, and the main thing that I did is I added. So this is the draft that you have before you. I added some definitions that I just took these from our current Middleton zoning code. Don't think I didn't make any changes to them. It's just what is, references that I felt would be helpful to carry forward into the new chapter. Any questions about that?
None.
No.
Just a second. I have custodial services that's coming here. I'm in a meeting. So here I then introduced based on the last discussion, the city's R1 residential district. And what I did is I took the entire section from our current code and just put it all here. You'll recall that previously this language was split into different parts of the code under CR5 and ER, depending on where it was referenced. So I pulled all those sections out and put them all here. I love how this is so much more easier to follow now. And the only changes I made, and some of this was what I did is I went back and looked at the different versions that were floating around. Bill Cole had one that I hadn't originally seen. So I added his language that I saw here. And with this note, I know there was a concern about accessory dwelling units, or what we called accessory apartments in our current code. And he suggested the word attached instead of detached. Let me see if I can shrink this down a little bit. This isn't a huge deal for me, but I didn't see a problem with the word detached, which is how it used to read. What I said here is I thought that detached is appropriate because in the very next sentence states that the accessory apartment needs to be part of one dwelling structure. It says it right here. So by saying attached, theoretically, you could have single family homes next to each other, attached to each other. And Bill, I didn't give him much time to review this since Friday, and Dean, you and I haven't had a chance to talk, but that's my observation there. And if you want, we can wait for Bill to weigh in. But that's.
Couldn't it say both detached / attached? Because you could have a detached and an attached that have those components to it.
We don't want those components, Mary.
Yeah,
I
think the
know.
The problem is we don't want a detached accessory dwelling unit, that's the problem. So we don't want
Right.
that at all.
And-
It
and
so it
that's
says
not-
later on, it says
But-
detached accessory dwelling unit shall not be permitted.
Right, so I'm adding that, and that makes sense, that, no problem with that. But I think this word up here, it should say detached, in my opinion, but, if you wanna leave it that way, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna fall on the sword for that.
Well, I remember a situation a number of years ago where a family wanted to add a detached structure for some of the family members to live in. We nixed it, and then they proposed building it, but attaching it to the main house. So essentially it was the same thing, but attached to the house.
Joe, as chair and Dean as lead staff there at Westport, what, do you have an opinion on this?
Well, we haven't typically had a problem with like mother-in-law type suites or anything like that. The town recently had a request from some of the other municipalities that we work with to discuss, I guess we'd call them ADUs for farm help and that type of thing. And that was a position that Westport didn't want to take at the board level at that time. So I'm just trying to reflect what the wishes were of the board when that decision was made. What was that, about a year ago?
Yeah.
Not even probably. but
Yeah.
In spring.
In the spring. So I think what you have here, in my opinion, looks acceptable. It allows a family member to possibly live in the same dwelling as long as it's less than 500 square feet. Of course, that would be difficult to police. But I don't see any issue with it.
I wanted to point out one other thing. So, I should have thought of this earlier. So here, look at this language under permitted uses. This is again, the current code, and I'm just verifying it in my paper copy. So we say residential occupancy of single family detached dwelling unit structures. That's what the permitted use is. And so that's why this was detached here. It says single family detached dwelling unit structure with accessory apartment. But how about this? I got an idea, with attached accessory apartment. Let's do it that way. That I think solves your, and then we emphasize it again later.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. Cindy, Mary from the town,
Okay.
Dean.
So
Any
we add,
issues? No.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds better.
okay, good. All right, that solves that problem. The rest of this is just updating some references. Planning Commission to Joint Zoning Committee. I missed that the first time. So again, this is all the language from the current code. And then what I did is I also combined it. There were references in the current code to a section called 10.37, which is conditional uses. I integrated all that here. Again, all this language was in your code at the previous time you looked at it. It's just all in one spot now. That's why it's so long. So now, I want to make sure that we have this language right. And I think from Joe, from what you said, there might still be a need to tweak this. So Dean had given me some language, then I saw some from Bill. So I just want to make sure, and I'm sorry it's hard to read, but the way this reads is patio decks may not include just setback areas, ground level, ground level hard surface paths no greater than 3 feet in width or less may be constructed within the setback. That's something I found in Bill's code. So I added that.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. I'll just assume that there's no objection if I don't hear any objection. Then under detached structures, we got rid of a lot of language, and then this is the new language. And Joe, did you have a comment about this here? What's highlighted? I can make it a little bit different.
I don't have any issue with necessarily anything other than the question would be for the commission whether or not the larger accessory structures would be permitted under R1. So the question there and here's the catch, is R1 can be anything from a small lot to a 10 or 15 acre parcel. Am I correct, Mark?
Yes,
So if it was a large, originally when we met back in September, the JCC, we had discussed parcels larger than 2 acres would be allowed to have the larger accessory buildings. What this would allow, if we leave this, would be smaller properties would also be allowed to have it. I don't see any issue with it, I personally, but I don't know. I can't speak for the entire commission, so I appreciate others to weigh in. I'm okay with leaving it the way Mark's got it. It does allow for a larger building. The question is, for example, the Ziegler property that was rezoned earlier this year, those are larger parcels and those are R1. And to constrain an R1 property down to a 750 square foot building without having to come in for, and maybe they just need to come in. I don't know. I don't know what everybody thinks.
So we do say in there maximum lot coverage rules apply. And I'm not sure what the formula is for
it's
the
35%.
maximum.
It's 35%,
Okay.
and that does not count a driveway under our lot coverage definition. I can show you that definition.
So that would
Okay.
restrict the building a little bit on a smaller lot.
Yeah,
Here's our definition of lot coverage right here.
So that would cover the smaller lots, Joe, and then we could just, they would have to come in and talk to us on the larger lots. Is that what you're saying? If they wanted a larger building?
No, they would be permitted up to, is it 1,250 or 1,200? I don't remember what we
1200
decided on.
is what you gave me.
1,200 square feet and a maximum height of 20 feet.
That's pretty big.
Yeah,
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Okay,
I'm comfortable with this.
yep, that's
so am
fine.
I.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you.
And we also have the SFR4, which is for smaller lots that has the shorter height and the smaller square footage. So if we're concerned about it at all, that would be the proper building.
There's rain or snow expected in your area. Would you like me to do that?
No. So can we move on to this language here? I think that's the building materials firewood. You had wanted some additional language there, and that's what I got from.
Yeah, originally there was nothing. It just said building materials, firewood, and that was it in the original code.
Yep.
And when I talked with Bill Cole, we thought we should add something there just so that there's not massive wood piles that are unorganized or whatever. That would be a nuisance for rodents or whatever. So neatly stacked piles is what Attorney Cole came back with and had recommended to the town.
That's I picked that up in his comments too. So okay. This I don't remember where this language came from. This is from Bill Cole also. So hard surface sport and play areas. The stricken language is what used to be in our code, which allowed putting the facility even closer to the lot line. You're proposing striking that language, simply saying hard surface sport play areas and swimming pools, including pool surfaces, shall not be constructed within the setback. So you're not allowing an adjustment to put it closer to the lot. It's fine with me.
So the thought there was that setbacks are setbacks and we should be consistent across all types of structures or decks or whatever. And with most of the properties in the town being larger in size, there is no need to have that to be greater than that. So it was something that we had talked about doing for ER1 and CR5 AC because they were both bigger lots, but with the change on the ER1 to the building, I think this is also now part of the R1 city R1 code as well. Is that correct, Mark?
And then you'll see when we get to those other zoning classifications that they refer back to this language.
Right. So this would be the new, basically for all, more or less, all the ER1, CR5 AC, and city R1 would fall under this. I believe that's the three that would have this restriction.
So this is letter 4J. Looks like there's a formatting problem. I'll fix the formatting problem. So 4J, we'll see that again later. So now So those are the changes to the city R1. And then the other changes from the last meeting is I took out the references that were to the R. I mean, I've now added cross references. Is what I'm trying to say. So here's the city R1 cross reference. This one had cross reference, but this one referred to a different part previously, and that's still the same. At the city's agricultural district, so that now is added here. I don't think I have notes here, but I don't. Oh yeah, so new cross reference given that the city code is now in the code. Yeah, so these are just updated.
So previously, we referred everything back to the old zoning
Yeah,
for
exactly.
city R1, and now
Yep.
he's got it all here in this document.
Yep. It reads so much. It's by adding the city R1, which I don't know why I didn't think about that beforehand, but that was a good suggestion from the last meeting. And I assumed, I don't remember where I saw this, Joe, but I saw this was stricken in one of the versions I saw as well. Striking the side and rear yard accessory building setback 9 feet. So I assume that you wanted to carry that forward. I saw it through bills.
No, I think our setbacks were the setbacks of the buildings, the principal structure, and that was it. We were gonna try to just simplify it and say, here's the setback for the building. The principal structure and everything else falls underneath that, just so we didn't have any confusion.
And here what I wrote is Bill's version had stricken this section, replacing with the cross reference. Is that intentional? Oh, yeah. So what I did is I put these, I wasn't sure that Bill intended to do that. So because these standards were different for ER1 were a little different from CR. So I just carried forward the ER. I wondered if he was confused about that. So because that was not a change you had discussed previously, I just carried forward the language that has always been in the code. So that's, I think, all I did. Oh, except here's let's see, SR. Oh, here specifically for SR residential, I think the intent was this reflects my understanding from your previous meeting that you wanted to keep it.
Yeah. We wanted to keep that smaller because that's more of a residential, to keep that smaller structure height and size.
Okay. I think that's it for the edits that are of substance. I don't think there was anything else. Yeah, the rest of this is not going to change because let me look at the very end ones. Sorry about the scrolling. Yeah, there's no other changes. So we've gone through all the changes that I made.
So the only other questions that I had, Mark, were regarding the bread and breakfast, or bed and breakfast, excuse me, I can't not thinking straight. And I think Dean and I talked about that today, and I think we're okay with the way you have this written. Is that correct, Dean?
Yes, I believe we have an ordinance and a licensing procedure that would be maybe a little bit more restrictive, but this should be fine for this purpose. And it's consistent with the way it was before. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and then the only other question was if any of the commission members here felt that having a city R1 and a county R1 was confusing. Hearing nothing, I think we're okay with the way it is, Mark. Unless anybody's got any other comments. Anybody else have any other comments that would like to, from Middleton or Westport, that would like to be addressed?
I do not.
Nothing here. Okay, hearing none, would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the zoning changes as presented tonight?
I'll make that motion. Said Mary.
We have Mary Mannering has made the motion. Do we have a second?
Summers will second.
Summers has seconded. Any other discussion?
To adopt the new ordinance, and then this will then also go to the council for a separate vote.
Right. Okay, hearing no other discussion, have a vote. All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes.
And it says the motion was to adopt the new ordinance as amended.
Correct.
We made that change in the meeting, so.
That's
Thank
correct.
you all for the incredible amount of work this took to do this. And thank you for presenting it in such an organized fashion tonight to be able to address I appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't easier than it was harder than I thought it would be. The formatting, the word formatting was just a bear. And I ended up just starting a brand new document and pasting the text over and just doing in a whole new formatting. So it was a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie, but I appreciate the recognition and I appreciate all of your patience for dealing with this process. And
Mark, if you could let us know at the town when Middleton approves and everything is in place, just so we know, that would be
I will.
appreciated.
December 5th, I did not put it on the agenda for tomorrow, which I originally had wanted to, in part because I wanted to make sure that your team had enough time to review it in case Bill wanted to look through it. I didn't give you very much time to look through it. And also because our zoning ordinance process wasn't going to be adopted before December 5th anyway. So
Okay.
if Bill still is going to go through it and has anything, I assume that anything he comes up with is minor in nature.
I would assume so. Yeah, 'cause he's read this a few times over, so I don't think there's anything in there that
Okay.
would surprise him. So moving on, we have one other item on the agenda, which is scheduling potential meeting on December 18th. Community of Bishops Bay developers requesting that the committee hold a meeting on December 18th, immediately prior to the town board meeting, to take action on a specific implementation plan and CSM pertaining to a plan of a site of 56,000 square foot indoor recreational facility and 3 RV storage buildings on land along Onken Road, west of the Inspired Early Child Care Learning Center. I guess my first question would be, Dean, is this going to be on the Westport Planning Commission meeting prior to December 18th?
Well, it has been requested to be on the December Plan Commission meeting for Westport. I wanted to have that on there as a consult, but they wanted to move right ahead and apply. Having said that, now I've heard from Mark that he's concerned that it may not meet the GIP standards, and so I'm afraid we're getting the horse before the cart in several different ways. So Mark, that last email that I got from you on the subject, how are you feeling about that?
Well, I actually offered to the developer to have this on the agenda for a consult and to discuss it, and they said no on this agenda meeting. Because the agenda item is specifically scheduling the potential meeting on the 18th, so I don't think we should talk about the merits of this, but what I'll simply say is what you said, Dean, which is I think what they're proposing is significantly different. It is substantial enough that I think it's merits a GIP amendment, which means a different process. So, but they are requesting the timeline that Dean just outlined. So, I don't know what else to do here.
Right, my opinion here, agreed. I don't want to discuss the merits of the request here tonight.
Yeah.
But I would like to make sure that this has been before the Westport Planning Committee prior to coming in front of this body. So with that said, I would look for the input from the other Westport members here if they agree or if they have concerns as far as, and I'm just looking at procedurally, what is the appropriate thing to do?
I agree. We just had the same issue with the Ziegler request. They requested to be on our Middleton joint meeting before they'd come to the Westport Plan Commission. And you're right, we need to follow procedures. So I think we need some more in-depth on this issue.
But the question
Absolutely.
the question is, given the holidays are approaching, do you want to schedule this meeting? Because they're basically saying they want you to meet on a specific date prior to the town board meeting. That's the only option, is December 18th. So I just thought, since you are all meeting tonight, you could tell me if you're available, and if you're not.
if
Yeah.
Dean can assure that this will be on the plan commission meeting, then I would say, yes, we could add it to the December 18th meeting, but if we don't know for sure that it's gonna be on the plan commission meeting, then I would say, no, we should not take
Well-
this up until it has been before our plan commission.
Well, with John's concurrence, our chair, it would be on the plan commission meeting in December. The question is though, whether their application is even correct because they're applying for an SIP amendment. And I'm now wondering whether it should be a GIP amendment before they could ever have an SIP amendment. So,
Okay, so to be clear, on November 20th, here at this meeting tonight, we do not officially have this on our plan commission agenda prior to December 18th.
well, they've requested it to be on there and I have it penciled in. But just
Has
today.
John approved that agenda, that agenda?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
yes. Right. But there's new information since then, and that is that perhaps we should be taking a different look at it. Now, maybe we're being too kind. Maybe we should just have it on the plan commission agenda and deal with it at that point. I'm not sure, but.
It
the point
doesn't
is-
matter to me. I mean, when we do
We're gonna
it,
get 2 or 3 steps ahead before we have to back up and start over is the problem because of the way they
Can,
come.
can we schedule a tentative meeting? And then cancel it if we agree or disagree with their application? Mark?
My
think
concern
that's-
is the timing is, because we have a 6 o'clock board meeting that evening. And it seems like we could be rushing through if we start at 5.
Mark, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
that is very true.
I was simply
said that-
saying,
That's also true. That
I feel like this is being very rushed, but I also am mindful of the fact you're all volunteers and at least those of you who are not elected officials you volunteered for too, but it's a bad time of year.
Yeah,
What's that?
I cannot attend unless it was a virtual,
Okay.
because we family conflict that night with an in-person attendance.
I think this is a big enough deal and a significant change, possibly, at least perceived by maybe some of the members of the JCC, let alone what the Westport Plan Commission has, but we don't know. But I would like to have this meeting as an in-person meeting on a night where we have sufficient time to discuss and understand the merits with the developer. So since this is before the board meeting, and I don't believe we're gonna have enough time hearing from some of the members here tonight, I think it's going to be best that we do not put this on the December 18th meeting.
I agree.
And I believe as chair, that's your prerogative, Joe.
Anybody
I
else?
agree as well.
I'm totally open to anybody. Okay, so it sounds like we have 3 or 4 members that either can't make the meeting or are in agreement that we delay this until either later in December or January.
Yes.
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 Is by
Mhm.
later December, do you mean literally between Christmas and New Year's as a meeting? Or are you, what do you mean, Joe?
I think we have an answer here. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
You said later in December. Well, that gives us the week between Christmas and New Year's. Is that really when you want to have a meeting?
No,
No, not really.
I'd say January.
All right,
Yeah.
I just didn't want to, I wanted you all to discuss this now so that we had a sense of staff, what your preference was for meetings, so that we don't then bombard you with emails trying to find a time. I just thought this would be a good time to discuss it. I think we're
No,
clear that
it just-
we're looking at January.
It's feeling too rushed, I think. I think that's the consensus of
Okay.
the majority of the people here. So, yeah, let's plan on it for January when
Okay.
everybody's available for an in-person meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
I got March
Moving
11th.
on. Okay, is there any other miscellaneous business or anything else that we need to discuss?
No.
Hearing none, we need one final motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion to adjourn in a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
you,
everybody.
Happy
Night.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
You too.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.